Hello and welcome to Two Crones and a Microphone. My name is Linda Shreve. I'm one of the three crones who podcast and have fun and work with each other and develop content here on Two Crones and a Microphone. You might be able to see I have a party crown on, and that's because I thought it would be fun to have a fire cider party. Why fire cider? Fire cider is one of the best tonic, meaning a daily recipe that you can make and take throughout the cold and flu season. And it's made of really simple ingredients. First, I'm starting with a big half-gallon jar just because I like to make a big batch when I'm making it. But it has very simple ingredients. It has onions chopped, it has peppers, it has lots of garlic. And we also have some ginger root, fresh chopped here. From my garden outside, I got some rosemary and some marjoram. And I'm going to add a couple of herbal things as well to this. And that is, I'm going to be adding some rose hips. These are the actual pods that are left after the roses have all flown off. And what rose hips are very good for is for vitamin C and to boost that. I'm also adding one of my favorites for fire cider, which is cinnamon sticks. And finally, because we're going through a bit of a time right now. I looked downstairs in my herbal cabinet and came up with lemon balm as a wonderful addition to this fire cider. So, for those of you who don't know what fire cider is, it takes apple cider vinegar. We put all these items in a big jar. Now, I've taken the time to already pre-chop these. So, of course, that took about a half hour of time, but I wanted to be able to show you quickly and easily how to make fire cider for yourself. So, I prefer to use raw, unfiltered, apple cider vinegar. It has the mother in it. That's the stuff that sort of cloudy stuff at the bottom. It's very active. However, I discovered that I actually don't have quite enough of that, so I'm going to supplement with regular apple cider vinegar. Use what you have. This is a basic recipe. I'm going to walk you through some of the elements as I put these things in the jar. We're going to top it off with the apple cider vinegar. And if the things in the jar come halfway up, we're going to make sure the vinegar is at least an inch or two, maybe three over that. I have a secure cap that I'm going to attach. And then you just let it sit in a quiet and somewhat cool place for anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. And then strain off all the things that are in there, the onion, the ginger, the garlic, and strain that off and keep the remaining vinegar. And here you can see this is a batch I made up last year. I want to point out something here, which is I label these, and you will want to label them too, trust me. Fire cider from 12/30/24. And so I have it all ready to go here. I haven't added honey, which is the final mix in once you've had time to let this macerate or sit, as we say. But tell you what, let's get our fire cider party going here. One of the best things you can do is to actually chop these vegetables and herbs a little bit. So although I pre-peeled the garlic, I'm going ahead and chopping right now because the more surface area you have, the better it is. But frankly, you know what? You can pickle eggs in not that long a time. So you can certainly use whole garlic cloves if that suits your fancy. So what I'm doing is I have maybe 20 garlic cloves here. I'm adding them to the jar. Here you'll see they're at the bottom. And next, just for a colorful burst, I'm putting in the little garden peppers here. And I think it's kind of nice to build a colorful fire cider. It makes it interesting and a little bit visual and artistic. Next, I'm going to add the ginger root. Now, many people will grate ginger. That's an absolutely wonderful thing to do. But it's also fine to just chop it up in a way that makes sense to you. Here, that's what you're really looking for is an actual grown ginger root to chop up. Next, I had neglected to mention one of the key ingredients, which is horseradish. Horseradish, once again, is one of those vegetables that is really potent and helps protect us in the cold and flu season. And so I'm going to add this. Someone did the hard work for me. They already grated this up. So for those of you who cannot find an actual horseradish root, because I couldn't find a horseradish root, oddly enough, I just got the easy peasy solution, which is ground horseradish and vinegar. There we go. That's plenty. I used about half of this jar. You can use as much as you like to taste, but just to keep things clear. There we go. We're already at almost the halfway mark. Now we're going to add in these onions that I've chopped. Now, there's a point here, my podcast co-host Betty is actually allergic to onions. So please be careful. Only add the things that make sense for you. If you're allergic to onions, probably not a good idea to add it to your fire cider. She likes to boost it with a lot of garlic, though, and I approve of that. All right, there we go. We're going to have a nice full jar here. Here we go. Now I'm adding the culinary herbs. Rosemary is terrific for brain function and memory. Marjoram is also in a family that has a lot of good antiviral properties. Here are our cinnamon sticks. And cinnamon is wonderful because cinnamon is what's called a mucilaginous herb. And that's one that really helps to support the mucous membranes in a healthy and just keeps things nice and moist in a good way. Then, as I said, I'm adding these rose hips. And you don't need that many. I do have a bunch here, so I'm going to add a little more. The other thing that rose hips will do is, besides adding vitamin C to your mix, they also are going to give you a nice rosy color because that rose hip color will translate into the vinegar itself. And one more thing here, the lemon balm. Lemon balm is a wonderful herb. It is antiviral. It also gently boosts our ability to cope. It's a bit of an adaptogen, as we'd say. And it has a slight lemony flavor. It just gives our spirits a lift a little bit. And I think in this time, for this winter in particular, we could use a little lifted spirit. Finally, I do have jalapeno peppers here. Rosemary Gladstar, who is the grandmother of American herbalism and originally was one of the ones who helped formulate fire cider back in the 1970s, always talks about the importance of having a little bit of a zing in there. And that's because in herbal formulas, usually you want something that's going to be a carrier, that's going to help activate the energy of this particular potion, we'll say. And there we go. I'm going to pour as much of this as is here over our simple fire cider. And I think you can see that just that half a quart already filled halfway up this jug. I'm going to top it off with the other vinegar I happen to have on hand. I'm leaving a good inch at the top here because you want to have what my teacher Luco used to call a slosh factor. You want to be able to shake this. Now, I'm going to flip this lid on and shake it up again. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. One of the best things that you can add to this fire cider, haven't quite added yet. It's love. Add the sense of love and care and thankfulness to this. How do you do that? Well, your intention means a lot, but shake it up. You can dance with it every day just to shake it as you go back and forth. You don't have to do it more than once a day. It's just a nice idea to keep it active. You're going to let this sit either on your counter or some other cool place for anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. And I'm going to let this one sit for a month. I already did make a label that has on there today's date. This happens to be the equinox, then the fall equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so in about a month's time, I will get a strainer and I will strain all the goods that are here out of this. And I will keep the remaining apple cider vinegar, which is your fire cider. It's going to probably fit in a jar about like this. The final thing that you will add at the very end after you strain out all these wonderful goodies in here, you'll add honey. And you can add honey to taste. And it should taste a little zingy, a little tart, and also a little sweet. So it's a sweet tart type arrangement. How do you use it? Take about a tablespoon a day, and you can either pour it into water, which is the way I do it because I don't like to chug it straight. And that teaspoon to a tablespoon a day is a tonic herbal remedy that will help support your immune system. And usually once a day is enough. If you feel like you're starting to come down with a cold or some kind of flu, then the usual way it's used is you would then every couple hours take some of the fire cider. But there we have it. Simple as can be. Make sure you label it. I put the date that I actually make it. And I put the date, ideally, the date I should strain it. It's also fine if it sits for 6 weeks. It's fine, really. You'll just need to strain it when you get a chance. But somewhere between 3 to 4 weeks is ideal. The other thing I do is I always label with everything that I've added here because I might not actually remember next year that I wanted to add lemon balm in here. So I like to keep myself reminded nicely with a handy-dandy label that says everything that I've added. Thanks for joining me. I hope you find this easy and simple. If you have any questions, look for us on social media after this is posted. Take good care and live healthy. Have some fun with fire cider.
Hi, if you're enjoying Two Crones and a Microphone, please like this video and hit the subscribe button. Enjoy timeless wisdom from modern times, all served up by women in the know.